So what do you think, JT? Should we make a teaser announcement?
We should make a teaser.
We should make a teaser announcement.
Hey, welcome, folks. JT McDowell here with resident explosion expert Nick Fraze. We are excited to be announcing our third invitational 40K and 40 Minutes Championship Series releasing very soon. To wrap up each of our seasons on YouTube, we invite back some of our fan favorites. We ask them to make a competitive 1,500-point list in this case and throw them together in a 4-game mini-tournament to see who will emerge as this year's champion.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be great. 4 players enter this arena this year, and we're ready to see who's gonna take home the title. Will it be the resilient Death Guard piloted by Taiko? Can the Orcs, run by James Mr. Initiative Jones, wog hard enough? Will the Necrons and Michael Buckthorpe see his luck and Watson return? Or is this truly gonna be the year of Steve with his astral claws?
Year of Steve.
Year of Steve. Year of Steve! This is shaping up to be one heck of a championship finale.
You bet it is. And one thing I really like about this championship, as opposed to previous ones we've done, how we're doing the scoring this time. Even if you win both your games, that is not a guarantee that you've won this tournament.
Exactly right. Who you play in round 2 is going to depend on how your first game goes. Winners will play winners and the losers will play losers. However, the overall winner is going to be the combined score of both games.
Which means that even if you're in the losers bracket, you are not out. So if you don't win your first game and you do well in your second game and your opponents do poorly, you can still take home that victory.
Exactly. So all 4 players are going to have to push hard, not let up on the gas, and focus on scoring as many points as possible all the way to turn 5.
Should make for a very exciting ride.
We've got some incredible players this year, and their armies look super tough.
Ooh, tough. Okay, let's talk about Taiko and his Death Guard for a bit there.
Taiko's army is an interesting combination of a ton of vehicles and big blobs of poxwalkers. What he's done is he's gathered 5 blight drones.
Those things are super tough. Every time I've played against them, I have not done well.
Exactly. He's got the 3 greater blight drones, which are a Forge World drone, which are move 14 inches. So for Death Guard, super fast.
He painted them up really nicely.
Oh, and they look absolutely
well
fetidly gorgeous.
Fetidly gorgeous.
They veritably ooze on the table. And he's got the 2 Flesh Mower bloat drones. So he has 5 models in his army that can literally be on you, assaulting you on the first turn if things go right.
It really makes up for one of Death Guard's issues where they're usually very slow.
Extremely slow. He still has Death Shroud Terminators in his list, which are an absolute hammer if they get in close, but it gives them time to get up the board because those bloat drones and blight drones are in your face right away and just laying waste to the armies.
I think Taiko's got a good chance of going far in this tournament.
I think he does too. The only thing he has to watch out for is if he overextends and doesn't make those charges with those drones, his opponents can circle around him really quick and take him out. So he's got to be careful. All he's got in the back line is a Demon Prince, a Plague Burst Crawler, and 2 units of Poxwalkers. Those are in danger of getting assaulted with counter deep strikes if he pushes too far.
It's very true. Another player that has to worry about where to put their deep strikes and how to position well, James Jones and his Orcs.
Yes, absolutely. The Orcs are really strong. I really love James's list. It's probably my favorite list out of the 4, but he has to be careful how far he pushes his commandos ahead and where he brings in his big vehicles and how he moves them. He's got a ton of points invested in characters, and they're all super killy. The problem is they're characters. So if they can get sniped out, a lot of his killing power goes away really quick. He's got to be very mindful of where they go. He doesn't have a lot of outflank, but he's got a lot of forward deploy. So he's got to be careful to not give up board presence too quickly with those forward deployments.
One thing going against James in this tournament is the fact that his Codex only just recently came out when we recorded this.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So he doesn't have as many reps as, say, Taiko with his Death Guard, or Michael with his Necrons, or even Steve with his Space Marines. So he's at a bit of a disadvantage as far as that goes. But James is a great player, and he's really put a lot of thought into this 1,500-point list. I think what he's bringing is going to surprise a lot of people because it's got some sneaky dead killiness in it, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
And James is a fantastic player by himself.
Unfortunately, you only have to roll for initiative once in 40K, so that advantage isn't a great one for him.
But you know what? First turn can often be a game breaker.
It can, and so can second.
I really am looking forward to seeing how James handles it.
Me too. I think it's going to be a fun match, whoever he plays first.
One player I'm excited to bring back to this championship, Michael and his Necrons. We've seen him a couple times on the channel, and both games have been a treat.
Watson
is back.
Reginald II.
You know, one anecdote that he told me is he was looking up some local experts. He was asking them, okay, what should I do with my list? Make it really, really great. How should I make it the most competitive we can? And the first thing all of them said was, take out Watson, take out that Doomsday Arc. And he said, no.
You know what? You got to admire the guy sticking to his guns with that model. It is arguably 150 some points of what the heck. It can do 1 wound or it could do 36 wounds.
It's one of the most swingy models in 40K, I gotta say.
It's extremely orky, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's kind of crazy the way they've done it. I kind of agree from a competitive aspect that it's not the best unit to bring. However, it's also a huge distraction. It's one of those things with Necron vehicles. The fact that they are always only wounded on 4s or better. So even if you're throwing melta-guns into it, you're still only wounding it on a 4.
Oh, yeah.
So they're really resilient. Plus, they've got some shenanigans where they can go to a 4-up invulnerable save. They can ignore damage, they heal damage every turn. So if you don't kill it outright, eventually it's gonna get back to full and you've wasted your shot. So it has some serious psychological impact on his opponents.
And we have seen it on this channel in one game take out a tank and 2 dreadnoughts.
And then we saw it in the next game do
absolutely
nothing.
So I think a lot of what will go on for Michael is, can his luck hold on?
Exactly. Michael's list is really sneaky strong. He's got 3 units of Immortals, no big warrior blobs, so he's not going to be giving up no prisoners.
Just fascinating choice.
It's interesting and probably the most, I think, competitive way to play Necrons right now. The warrior blobs are expensive and they take a lot of commitment and they take away from a lot of what you can do. Sure, they can be somewhat demoralizing to have 60 of them on the table, but it's just so many points your opponent gives up. And let's face it, most competitive lists can take out a 20-man Necron warrior blob like that. And it's just not as strong as I think they were meant to be, or maybe it's on purpose. Maybe they want to sell other kits. I don't know. What's GW doing there? But his secret sauce, the Catacomb Command Barge, has made a real comeback. I think that's a great HQ choice.
It does a lot of damage.
It does a ton of damage, and if it gets in, it can just wreak havoc. And it's a vehicle, so it benefits from all those cool Necron rules.
It does.
But the Tesseract Arc, this has become really popular with a lot of Necron players. It's a Forge World model again. It's basically a captured black hole, and they can shoot a super beam, a super flamer, or a bunch of shots. It's got a couple of Gauss cannons. It's got a fairly small profile.
Yeah.
But this thing is sneaky. If you don't key in on it and take it out, it's gonna just decimate your army. And I think if it's ignored, I think that's gonna cause people a lot of trouble.
I'm really curious to see what Michael does with his wraiths. They can be a really swingy unit. They seem on paper that they can be really good in combat, but I've often seen them fail.
You know what? They're a big distraction again. That 4-up invulnerable save and 3 wounds a model makes them really hard to shift.
I think a lot of people overestimate them.
I think a lot of people do overestimate them. They do a lot and they can fall back and charge, but honestly, I personally don't worry about them as much. I get annoyed more with the Scarab Swarms and those murder buckets, the crypto thralls, walking on from an edge and performing actions.
Very powerful.
You know, he also has a Lich Guard that can deep strike, and those can get really, really close with the Veil of Darkness on the first turn. And if somebody doesn't zone out, they're in trouble. So he's got a really well-rounded list, and I think arguably is my second favorite to win the tournament.
All 4 of these players are great players, and I would be excited for any of them to win. But let's talk about our last player here, Steve. Our very own Play on Steve. You know him, you love him. Space Marine Steve, bringing his Astral Claws.
Astral Claws, yep.
This will be interesting.
He's last on the list, but he's first in our hearts, that's for sure.
Of course.
You know, he's somewhat hamstringed by the armies he has painted for his Astral Claws.
Yeah, it's true. When you do get a commissioned army painted, sometimes it's tough to throw in extra units because you want them all to be the same standard. So he is hamstringing himself and choosing to work within what he's got.
He is, but I think he's got some magic here. Space Marines are the jacks of all trades.
They are.
They can do absolutely everything and do it well.
And access to some really great stratagems.
They really do. He's got Plasma Hellblasters, he's got an Invader ATV, he's got a Redemptor Dread, which I think is going to be a magic unit for him. Steve likes to castle up, which with his chapter tactics, I don't think it's the best option. But what he gets with the Dreadnought is the Wisdom of the Ancients lets it turn into a captain and buff out some of his units, rerolling ones to hit and rerolling ones to wound, I believe, with Wisdom of the Ancients strat. You choose, right? So he's got some play with being able to move up the board and take over. It's going to come down to deployment for him, which he is pretty good at, and it's going to come down to, let's face it, for all 4 players, it's going to come down to rolls.
It definitely is. What do you think about Steve's amount of intercessors in his army? He's got quite a few.
He's got 2 squads of 5 and a squad of 9, and I think these are good. I think they've got a lot of shots, and I love the fact that for 2 command points, you can make a unit shoot twice. And with a 9-man intercessor squad, with 3 shots each, shooting twice is absolutely heinous amounts of firepower.
He has the capability to hold on despite immeasurable fire coming his way.
Yeah. He does have some Reavers in there too, so he's got some outflank shenanigans. He's got an Impulsor as well, so he's got a place to protect. There's Hellblasters in one of his intercessor squads. So he's really got a lot of work that he can do that he can make his opponents react to.
Looking at his opponents in the field, though, he's got a lot of armor to get through. Those Hellblasters have to do work.
The Hellblasters are key.
I think he's got an uphill climb, doesn't he?
I think he has a bit of an uphill climb, but you never know. We've seen stranger things happen.
And we have seen Steve spike the dice exactly when he needs it.
We have, and we've seen him spike them the other way too. With all 4 players, though, it's really going to come down to a little bit of luck. I mean, no matter what you want to say, dice are a factor. They're going to determine who wins and who loses, who makes saves when they need to. You can limit them as much as possible, but it's still the role of a die to determine who wins. That's why we keep coming back to this game.
Dice tell stories, and we love telling stories here at Play On. We're excited for this championship. It's coming out soon. Please stay tuned. Very first game, Taiko versus James Jones. Game 2, Steve versus Michael. Gonna be interesting, and we'll see how it wraps up for game 3 and 4.
I had Taiko and I had James as my odds-on favorites to win this. They're playing round 1, but the key thing here, no matter who wins that game, it's still going to come around to round 2. Our first mission is going to be Scorched Earth. So multiple objectives can be removed. It's a really fun game, and it's a hold 1, hold 2, which means you get 5 points for holding 1 objective, 10 points for holding 2, and then 15 for holding more than your opponent. Round 2, though, we're playing Vital Intelligence. So that's a hold 2, hold 3. So you need to hold 2 objectives for 5, 3 for 10, and then 15 for more. The key with that mission is I've seen it go from a 40-point victory to an 80-point victory. So no matter what happens in this first round, that second game is absolutely key because it's possible for someone who wins this round 1 to actually tank it in round 2 and not get enough points, and it's possible for somebody who loses twice even to win this because it's overall aggregate points.
We wanted to make sure that no matter what game you're watching, it always matters. It's always going to be exciting, and you never know who wins until the very end.
Exactly.
So make sure you watch all 4 games coming out soon, one after another, 1 week apart. It's going to be a fun, exciting time. And your hosts, JT McDowell and Nick, Explosion Nick, whatever you want to call me, we're here to guide you through it. And
I think we call you Boom Boom now.
Boom Boom.
Nick
All right.
Boom Boom phrase. I think that's it from now on.
We're going to be color commentating the whole thing. This is going to be exciting. I can't wait.
I am super excited for this. We've got 4 games, we've got 4 players, we've got 1 champion.
Play on.